Hey, my name's Raymond Cox, and this is my story of God's grace. I grew up as the youngest of 5 kids, 2 older brothers and 2 older sisters. Me and my parents living in a 2 bedroom house, brothers sharing a room, sisters sharing a room. So everything was close, tight quarters. So it was either you get along or you don't get along. We had our moments, but I feel that being that close as a child and growing up in that family created the bond between the brothers and sisters that I have and the parents that I have today. We didn't have much. We didn't ask for much because we knew that the income coming in was only from mom and dad, or from dad. I started that summer going into my freshman year. I started going to church with my aunt at Bristol United Methodist. Really enjoyed it, had a really good youth, got involved with extracurricular stuff with the church, and it became part of me. Try to go every time I had the opportunity to go with her. Going back, my mom and dad was never a pusher of church. We had an old bus driver that used to take us here and there to church. They never turned us away. My parents never turned us away from not going. They have Christ in their life. Matter of fact, I just found out a couple weeks ago that my mother accepted Christ a long time ago in her life, and I never knew that. But going back, getting involved with church and being part of that youth and doing things with the kids and stuff, I got to experience a whole nother side of what God meant to me. And we had the opportunity to go to a missionary group down at Henderson. We helped clean things up. We built fences. We mowed grass. It was just exactly what I enjoyed doing, helping others, and got to meet some good people. So there, each and every night we used to have talent night, and anybody from all over. Now there's multiple churches, so there was churches from everywhere, youth that was involved. And one evening, talent show turned into accepting God in your life, and I knew at that moment that was what I was supposed to do. And as I stood up, there was multiple teenagers from our church that came with me. And I accepted the Lord that day as my Lord and Savior. Felt different. Everything seemed right. Got back home that summer and told my story to my parents. And I was just living life. Knowing that God was part of my life, that He's going to lead me in the right direction. Throughout school, my sophomore year, that summer of my sophomore year, we ended up going back to a church, another camp. It was a Henderson settlement. We went there, got involved with same thing with people, helping them out, just knowing what you were doing for them. People, they were just gratefully accepting what we did, and didn't understand why we were doing it for them, but I knew in my heart that this is what God wanted us to do, and we were there for a reason. So after my sophomore year, I become to the point where our church started making changes, and our church youth pastor, she ended up getting married, met a gentleman, and moved to Cincinnati. After that happened, our actual pastor, she stepped down, and it turned over to somebody else. There was no more youth. They were having trouble finding a youth, so it kind of went away, and I started second guessing myself of what's the purpose of being here. All the fun's gone, and I don't need to be here. So I resorted to, instead of Sunday morning going to church, I was using Sunday morning to recover from having a good time with my friends on the weekends. And what I mean by that was I turned myself to alcohol and drugs. The alcohol was my key, my go-to, and it weighed a lot on me, and it took a lot on me. Church was no more, God was no more, and it was alcohol. I replaced it with alcohol. So throughout my sophomore, junior year, and even into my senior year, that was pretty much my life, was alcohol. I got into some points where didn't know where I was at, didn't know what I was doing and why I was here. Would get into fights, not only with people I didn't know, but even my best friends at the time. And that's probably the hardest part, was dealing with that and knowing that they're your friend, but at that time you didn't care. So my senior year of high school, I was willing to give blood for Red Cross. And a couple weeks later, I received a letter in the mail stating that they had found traces of hepatitis C in my body. I brushed it off at first. I was like, no, this can't be me. I'm too healthy to have this. And then after reading into it, knowing the side effects of hepatitis C, and not aware of it completely, I got second opinions from my doctor. And then my doctor at the time happened to be a doctor that my sister worked for. So I feel that it was my sister that pressed the doctor to have me go through some type of study, or at least have me checked out further to see where I was at. So as I got tested further, hepatitis C goes into stages. You have 4 stages. I was a late stage 2, early stage 3. Once you get to 4, it creates cirrhosis of the liver. So there's nothing they can really much do for you. And because of me with the heavy drinking over the years, not knowing how long I've had the hepatitis C, I was more towards stage 3. She pushed and pushed for me to go to a test study up at Cleveland University Hospital. 2009 is when I decided that I finally need to go get treatments. There wasn't, I guess I was doing it because I was tired of hearing it from everybody, especially my sister. And so finally I got into a test study and I did this treatment. When I first went to do the assessment and sign up for the treatment, there was a big rule sheet on things that I can and can't do for the next 72 weeks. One of the things that I could not do, absolutely, was have alcohol. I hesitated because that was my go-to. And, but I know that my life was more important, being here was more important than taking that chance. So I accepted the treatment, and it was 72 weeks of absolute hell. I dealt with depression. I dealt with suicide thoughts multiple times. You find out who your friends are when this stuff happens. It was tough. I was mean to my family, not because of withdrawals of the alcohol, but I was mean just because of the medication that I was on, and it was all new, not even on the market, so they wasn't sure of the side effects. And 72 weeks was tough. I lost a lot of weight. They almost pulled me from the program because of my weight loss. I dealt with a relationship that was off and on with the girl that I put through hell myself. She dealt with a lot of stuff. So after the treatment, everything went well, and I felt that's where the transition of my life started changing, because now that I look back, I know that there was a reason that the hepatitis C was part of my life. God knew that he could not intervene in my life because I was so hooked on alcohol, that his only way, that I feel that his only way was to get me to understand was, and I'm not saying that he put that on me, but that it was a trigger. It was a reality check that, hey, I don't need this stuff. And I got hired in at the job that I'm at now, and I met a gentleman named Jeff Benton. And Jeff pressed into me multiple times about going back to church, and I always had questions with him about going back to church. And I said, I'm scared. Like, I walked away from him. I walked away from God. I walked away from everything because I chose alcohol. And Jeff told me that it doesn't matter how long you're away. He's always there in open arms, waiting for you to come back. And I always, the song "Reckless Love" is a part of my life, because I feel like that I was that lost sheep, and he left everything else behind to come and find me, find the one. And when I finally got the courage to go back to church, it was a blessing. I met my wife. She was at my brother's wedding. She was on and off with a relationship. I was on and off with a relationship, but we always kept in contact. I finally gave up on the situation with trying to take her out on a date, because I kept getting the wrong messages. But we finally got together. She always came to our family's 4th of July party. And she was absolutely amazing. We just hit it off then. I felt like the relationship was completely different, or it was going to be different. I tried to change my ways on how I approached past relationships to this relationship, because, they were always screwed up. And I've always wanted to have kids. And one of the things that through this program that I was told that there was a good chance that I wouldn't be able to have kids. And that was something I had to accept. But I always told in my mind that if I ever reached the age of 35, that I didn't want to have kids, because I didn't want them to grow. I guess 35 is not old, but that was in my mindset. I didn't want to have kids after 35. So I accepted that through that test study. So going back to meeting my wife, she was faced with obstacles and stuff too, and we were together for 8 months, and she was also told that she couldn't have kids either, and that was a strain on herself through a previous marriage, because that's what they wanted. So we got together 8 months, and 8 months later, we were surprised that we were having a baby. I was super excited. August 10th, 2015, we brought Peyton Blake into our life. He has been a blessing to us. You couldn't ask for a kinder kid. We're just so happy to have him in our life. And as Peyton got older, Nicole and I started talking about getting involved with church and raising our kid in the church setting. We felt like that was the best thing for him, but not only for him, but for us. It's something that always weighed on me, and talking with Jeff, I wanted to do and never had the opportunity to do. But there was a motivation there between both of us wanting to get involved. So we started weighing out our options. And then I met a gentleman at work, and I knew him prior to this, but I didn't know him as a Christian. His name was Dennis Madorma, and I told him about getting involved with the church, and he said, "Hey man, you got to come to Rock of Grace." He said it's family oriented, it's a good group of people. They love Jesus. And I said, we'll give it a shot. And when you go through service and you have an upbeat pastor that just cares so much about God, and everything that he was hitting on that day was exactly what we both needed to hear. And we left that day, pulling out of the parking lot, looking at each other, and said, "This is our church." And there was no looking back. We've been going ever since. We now are, my wife and I, a year ago in September, started taking on foster kids. We got licensed to be foster care adoption parents. That's where God started moving in me and moving in my wife. I felt like that I needed to accept God back into my life because of everything that I had done to him. And it wasn't fair. I'm not sure what time frame it was. It was within in that year that I accepted God again and renewed that with him as my Lord and Savior. Shortly after that, I do believe it was in March the following year, we got baptized, me and my wife both together. And when it comes to my wife, she means everything to me. And I really feel that God put her in my life like she was meant for me. She's my rock. She's somebody I can turn to. She keeps me grounded. And she just knows what's best for everything. I always, like I said, wanted kids. Never had the opportunity in multiple relationships. Constantly ask God why. Why can't I have kids? I don't understand what I did wrong. I know now why. Because God had her for me. And she is amazing wife, friend, mother that anyone could ask for. We, like I said, are now foster care adoption parents, involved with the church, and we just enjoy every minute that we do. Everything that we do is because of God. It's because of his grace and what he has done for us. We feel that we have to get back to him. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't thank him for what he done to my life and pulled me out of that addiction, and knowing that there is there's what do I want to say, there's nothing greater than him, and that feeling of knowing that he's a part of you and he's always there. I just want to say, for anyone that's there that is struggling with alcohol, struggling with depression, struggling with suicide, it's tough. It is tough. It's a dark road. But having God in your life and accepting him and knowing that no matter what, in your deepest and darkest places, he's always there. All you have to do is ask. He will show his way, and know that he loves you. Whether you know that or not, he loves you, and he cares about you so much. And there's nothing that he wouldn't do for you, because he showed it in me, and I'm very thankful for that.